three were wearing what appeared to be explosive vests.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Peace and blessings to each and every single body. You know, there are a number of countries in the world which have the death penalty for some drug trafficking and other drug-related crimes. The United Kingdom apparently needs to be included in that list. And I say that without any. The United Kingdom could also be included in that list. Countries that do have the death penalty for some drug crimes include Bangladesh, Brunei, China, Cuba, the so-called Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Guatemala, parts of India, Indonesia, Iran, used to be Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Laos, Malaysia, Morocco, Myanmar, North Korea, Oman, Qatar, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Somalia, South Korea, South Sudan, Sri Lanka, Syria, Sudan, Taiwan, Thailand, United Arab Emirates, and parts of the United States. If you're like the drug kingpin, or you're arrested and charged under espionage and crimes against the state, then you can be killed for drug-related crimes in the United States. Also in Vietnam, in Yemen, and Zimbabwe. There's only one truly African independent country included in that list, and that's Zimbabwe. A lot of so-called Muslim countries or Islamic countries in there: Syria, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Qatar, Oman, etc. And there's a couple of so-called communist countries: China, Korea, and what have you. Interestingly, there's no Christian countries. I wonder why that is. Is it because the Christian countries are libertarian and they think that drug dealing, drug smuggling, drug swallowing, drug selling shouldn't really be killed? You shouldn't really be killed for that. It shouldn't carry the it shouldn't carry a capitalistic offence. It shouldn't carry the death penalty. Or is it because the Christian countries see that it's not such a terrible crime? I don't know. I'm just throwing that question out there to you. The reason I'm outlining where countries do have the death penalty is that I would hazard a guess that those countries where there are drug dealers that get killed for smuggling or selling and what have you, those countries will probably have a lower crime rate and drug-related crime rate than the Christian countries, than the Western, so-called Western countries. You know, it's not rocket science, people. Now, if you ask me, my opinion as to whether people selling crack or heroin or cocaine and large amounts of death and life-destroying drugs should face a death penalty, then that's my own personal opinion, and I would probably say yes, that I think that it's right that somebody who's selling large amounts of drugs, illicit drugs, to others, a smuggler, a dealer, a juggler, should face a death penalty. I think that that's correct. In a country where that's the law, where the law states that if you're caught and convicted for the crime of drug smuggling, and you happen to be stupid enough to do that in that country, and you're caught and you're convicted, and then you're sentenced to death, I think it's quite right that you face that death penalty. Heaven forbid I would ever be in that situation, but if I should go and want to sell drugs or smuggle drugs or whatever in a country where it was illegal to do so, and it was the charge or the penalty for doing so would be potentially the death penalty, then I would never do that there. I would never do that anyway, because of my own moral fibre and my own moral basis. But had I been born in a country where you did have the potential of a death penalty, then I would absolutely not do it there. I'm sure you understand the drift.
The family of Rashan Charles, who died in police custody a week ago, has urged calm following violent protests in East London on Friday night. The 20-year-old was wrestled to the ground by officers in Dalston on the 22nd of July and died about an hour later. Diane Abbott, Labour MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, said questions must be answered.
I'm here to assure the parents and assure the community that I will stand by the parents in their fight for the truth. We have all, well, most of us will have seen the video, and there are questions to be answered, and I will not rest until those questions are answered.
On Friday evening, a large gang of protesters, many of whom had their faces covered, clashed with riot police as tensions came to a head in Dalston. Bottles, stones and other objects were hurled at officers as they used shields to move into the violence in an attempt to bring it under control. The police watchdog, the Independent Police Complaints Commission, has launched an investigation into Charles's death.
Lots of countries, like the United States of America and India, they will give you the death penalty only under circumstances. Like I've already mentioned, that the United States, if they will give you the death penalty if you're the drugs kingpin and it's an offence against the state, or treason or espionage. And with India, what's the situation in India? It's if you have a second conviction of drug trafficking and it's large quantities, then they will kill you. Then they will give you the death penalty in India. If it's your second large conviction of drug trafficking, then they will give you the death penalty. But other places, if you're caught with a kilo, half a kilo, 3 kilos, I'm not sure about the exact rules and whereabouts and what have you, but they will kill you. They will hang you. Perhaps they will decapitate you in Saudi, or they will shoot you, or you will be dead. You will be killed. You will be deathed. Death will become you. And I'm starting off by saying this because if it's the law, then it's the law. Now then, coming back home to the United Kingdom, to the land of the sinking sand, to England, there's a recent case of a young man, a young gentleman called Rashan Charles, in July 2017, that was apparently, I don't know the full ins and outs of the story, but apparently he was stopped by the police for whatever reason. It could have been a misdemeanor, could have been a broken tail light, could have been whatever. And rather than ask the police what they wanted, or how can I help you, officer, yes sir, no sir, he decided to run. And apparently he ran into a shop, and all of us, or most of us, have seen footage of a policeman accosting him and tackling him down to the floor, sitting on top of him and basically choking him to death. It does look like the policeman's trying to put his hands in the man's mouth and do whatever, but basically you see the copper sit on top of him and choke him to death. Now for me, I don't know this gentleman, I don't know this man. He could be a ragamuffin, he could be a roughneck, he could be a complete upstanding citizen. I don't know him. But to see a policeman tackle this youth in this manner and kill him, I think is a travesty. I think it's a crime. On social media, there are lots of people saying, well, he was a dirty, nasty drug dealer and he deserved to die. He was a dirty, nasty criminal and he deserved to die. Now, my opinion, anybody that's selling crack, heroin, etc., they are dirty, nasty drug dealers and they do deserve to die. That's my opinion, as I've already stated. But we're not living in a country where the penalty for being a drug dealer or for being a dirty, nasty drug dealer is death. We're not living in a country where the penalty for drug dealing is death. Most of those countries where the penalty for drug dealing is death, they will arrest you, they will try you in a court of law, and then, if found guilty, then you will face a death penalty. But this young man, young Rashan Charles, who could have been a father, somebody's brother, somebody's son, somebody's cousin, a member of a family, a member of a community, a member of a family and a community which faces, by and large, an overproportional number of stop and searches, an overproportional number of deaths, what we call blue death, at the hands of the police in this country. This man, this young man, let's just start with the assumption that, okay, he was a dirty, nasty drug dealer. and he had a vial of crack or a pouch of cocaine or crack or heroin or skag or crocodile or whatever, and he tried to swallow it, more fool him. If he had that stuff, that death substance, and he swallowed it, then that's his comeuppance, unfortunately. But even if he was a drug dealer and he was being arrested by the police, he should have been smarter about it. He should have run, and when he was running, thrown the substance down and carried on running. Created a distance between himself and the substance. Because even if he swallowed it and survived this encounter, they would have taken him to a police cell and gone through his feces and retrieved it and then given him a conviction. And even if he did have it, he could have left it in his pocket and got searched and said, look, officers, I'm sorry, blah, 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 and faced the conviction. He wouldn't be dead. So in some respects, you could argue that if he was a drug dealer and he did have crack or heroin, or it could have even been marijuana or ganja, that if he was a drug dealer and he did run and he did swallow and he did die, then he is the victim of his own circumstances. He is the victim of his own madness, of his own actions. And some people have argued that. But the reality is, people, the police stop and search young black people. The police stop, search, arrest, harass, beat us and kill us in a manner which far outweighs the number they do for the white community. A young black man is 3 times more likely to be stopped, to be arrested, to be accosted, to be imprisoned, to be given longer sentences than their white counterparts. Now this exemplifies the disadvantage and the racism and the institutional bias which is prevalent in the United Kingdom. That's out there for fact.
I'm terrified.
Would like to say, although...
So in terms of this young Rashan Charles, I'm not trying to say that this guy is a role model for the black community and we must all gather around and grab a hold and get round together and have another vigil and create social unrest for the death of this young man. But if he was a clean, upstanding member of the community and wasn't a drug dealer and didn't have any crimes and what have you, then something has gone very wrong here. And even if he was a dirty, nasty drug dealer, in terms of the process, something has gone very wrong here. Let's just take the example that he was a drug dealer again, and then he swallowed the substance, and then he died as a result of swallowing some form of mad substance that gave him a cardiac arrest. And again, in some respect, he is the victim of his own actions. But that does not negate the fact that the police are responsible for the overproportional numbers of blacks in prison, for the overproportional numbers of blacks which are being killed at the hands of the police. No, they're not. The police are responsible for that. You can't say, well, it's the black community, they're responsible for their own drug dealers and what have you. No, because you know what? Cocaine doesn't grow in the black community. Crack cocaine might be manufactured somewhere else and sent in to have certain effects on the black youth. I'll let you do your own historical research. Look into the COINTELPRO programs in America, the counterintelligence programs in America, where the FBI, in collaboration with the CIA and the other American so-called intelligence services, force-fed the African American black community with drugs for numbers of years, in order to ramp up the numbers of arrests, in order to ramp up the numbers of crimes. But by and large, the black community and the so-called white community, they're pretty equal in terms of the amount of crime that's perpetrated in the communities. What's not equal is the amount of policing in the respective communities and the type of policing in the respective communities. If you ask Black Lives Matter, they will tell you that, look, black people are being killed in America and in the United Kingdom, in the United Snakes of Satan, America, and in the land of the sinking sand, England. Black people are being killed over proportionately at the hands of rabid, mad dog police. So you can't get away from that fact. But then you can't justify that fact with the madness of saying, well, the blacks are drug dealers and criminals, so therefore they negate, or therefore they don't deserve due process. Therefore they don't deserve to be arrested and convicted and tried and tried in a court of law. They just deserve to be arrested and treated like dogs and shot, or treated like dogs and tasered to death, or treated like dogs and attacked by dogs. You can't say that. Everybody's equal under the law. So we should all deserve a chance. Now, like I said at the beginning, at the onset, I do agree with the notion that drug dealers,
Like to see.
drug smugglers, drug traffickers, drug kingpins should face a death penalty. But I don't think that it's right and proper to say that this young man or anybody should be killed at the hands of the police before they've been tried and tested through the process of law and order. You know, if you can ask me again, if there's a bunch of drug dealers on the corner selling crack, should we take a machine gun and mow them down? And sometimes I'd be like, yeah, you know what, mow them down. And that will stop these young jiggers from saying, hey, we want to sell crack for a career. You know, it's not the black community's fault that they're being inundated with guns and victims of crime and tempted into crime, but then it's not the system's fault that you fall prey to the temptation. You are the master of your own destiny. Understand that. And if there are any young drug dealers out there, be you black, brown, white, yellow, whatever, then death to you. And sus upon you. Because I don't like you kind of people at all whatsoever. And I think if you was a crack dealer before, a drug dealer before, and now you've turned the leaf and you've gone and done other things, then the blood of the victims of your crimes will haunt you for the rest of your life. And it will haunt your family and your children and your children's children until you've rectified the mistakes of your wanton, wicked, wanton ways. That's what I believe. So then, family, in closing, I know there's been vigils for Rashan Charles. I know there have been vigils for the brother Duggan that got killed. But think carefully about who you're holding up to be your role model. Think carefully about who you're going out and what you're going out to demonstrate about. Yeah? Because what's happening is that we're getting things twisted. We know that without any justice, there's no peace. No justice, no peace. We know that. But what if this young man, all he had was some cannabis and he was just scared shitless by the police? He didn't want his mum or dad to find out. What if it was just an innocent thing like ganja? And he died for that? Maybe he's heard all the stories about how in America people are being killed, murdered and shot by the police. How people over here are being killed, murdered and shot by the police. And he was just scared. Wouldn't you be scared if you had some mad, rabid, mad dog policeman chasing you? My last piece of advice to anybody who's stopped. When the police come and stop you in a car and they say, okay, get in the back of our car, just kindly, respectfully decline. Say, no, officer, thank you, sir, I don't want to go in the back of your vehicle. Am I obliged to get in the back of your car? No, then okay, officer, I'd rather not. Thank you. A lot of us are blind and ignorant to what the law is. But don't be blind and don't be ignorant. If they ask you to sit in the back of their car, if they haven't arrested you, then they can't force you to. Anyway, this is me. No, it's not me. It's you, honest, with a more raw than what you bargained for. Wishing you peace.